Well, as the 1995 Mortal Kombat tagline from a movie poster says, nothing in the world can prepare you for this. And boy, let me tell you, I did not find any joy watching awful films. I get no kind of thrill when watching movies that are downright boring and predictable. Like every movie on this list has a review on my channel, but more importantly, this 10 films put me through the emotional ringer. It didn't make me like sad or anything. It just left me disappointed and frustrated. And most importantly, just bored out of my skull. One thing I would say is that while all the films on this list are subjective, they are certainly the worst of the year, and 2023 had a lot of awful ass films. Let's not bullshit around any longer though. Let's go ahead and get this over with. Number 10. So starting off this list is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Man, what an awful film this one was. From the terrible acting, the over-the-top plot. Like, why does this feel like a Avengers level threat? Ant-Man, he is a interesting character, but when you put him in a film where he's taking on Kang the Conqueror, and just having the dialogue be ridiculously absurd. Plus, this movie had forced comedy, which I downright despise. The first two Ant-Man films, they were enjoyable. This one right here was just downright awful, and quite frankly, it's a film that should have been cool to see, but I just left the movie just feeling underwhelmed just by how boring this whole thing was. Number 9. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Yeah, this movie was lost alright. I was lost midway of this awful storytelling, lack of strong character development, and just a overall boring film. And the thing is, James Wan, who directed the first movie, I know he wanted to do it his own way, but Warner Bros. Is like, nah, you have to take this paper shredded script, my ad, and make something out of it. It doesn't even matter because this was the final entry of the DCEU, and they went out with this sorry excuse for a DC film. Us DC fans deserve better than this, but what we got was just a flaming hot pile of garbage, to say the least. Number 8. Alright, next on the list is 65. Yeah, this movie was boring from beginning to end. And you know, the funny thing is that a few weeks before I saw it, I looked at the trailer, I was like, okay, this looks interesting. This might be a decent watch. Nope. The only thing I got out of this was just downright boredom and time wasted. You know, this film probably could have worked if it wasn't trying to copy Jurassic Park. Seriously, what is this fake bullshit? Like, this movie did no one any favors. Adam Driver was just awful in the role. And the mere fact he's taking care of this little girl, it's like, seriously, I could be doing a lot better things than watching that film. I kind of half forgot about it, which is funny enough because I looked at my list, I was like, yeah, that definitely deserves to be in the top 10. Number 7. Okay, so the first Medic film, it was fun. Medic 2, The Trench, was just downright stupid. Seriously, whether it was the boring characters, the horrendous acting, or the mere fact the shark didn't show up to the last 15 minutes, I was just saying, like, what in the hell is this movie? Like, one thing I learned about this film is, like, if you clear out your sinuses, you can survive the water pressure. Like, this movie went into jumping the shark, and I mean that literally. Like, what was this film trying to be? Like, some kind of espionage, some kind of action adventure? It didn't know what it wanted to become, but what it did become is one of the worst films I saw in 2023. Number 6. So this next entry on the list, it's another comic book movie, and that is The Marvels. I don't know if 2023 is supposed to represent the death of the superhero genre. I don't know if this film was rushed into production, but when I had saw the trailer, I was like, yeah, this movie's probably going to be awful, but man, did I not believe it was going to be this shitty. Seriously, from the awful acting, the character development being all over the place. It's like Marvel Studios, what are you doing? And you know what's funny is that next year might even be worse for comic book films because we have 3 Sony Marvel movies coming out. 3. This one right here, while it's not a Sony film, it's a Marvel film that downright just bored me. Like, I could have been doing something more interesting than watching this hot pile of garbage. Not a fun film whatsoever, and certainly not entertaining either. Number 5. So what happens when you take a movie about hypnosis and make it as boring as possible? Well, then you get Hypnotic. Yeah, strangely enough, this film was so boring I nearly fell asleep at one part. The horrible acting, the character development just being awful. Not just that though, but the whole story is nonsensical. Nothing really interesting happens, and nothing is entertaining whatsoever. It's like Ben Affleck, he signed up, he read the script to be in this. And you know, this movie is so underwhelming. It's like, is this film over yet? I was asking myself that like every 20 minutes because this one right here, yeah, it's that bad. Number 4. Okay, so next on the list is The Old Way, which is ironic because I saw this during a particular weekend and I thought I'd go and check it out. But I left the movie just underwhelmed. This movie was so absurd. Nothing interesting happens, the characters are boring, the script is a mess. Nicolas Cage, he did his best to try to save this film, but it was nowhere near great as the actor he is. In fact, this whole film felt like a rip-off Red Dead Redemption. Like, not to be funny here, this film is like this old Western. It's not even a Western you can be proud of because for me, this movie was just, well, it was atrocious. What else could I say about it? And it did no one any wonders considering it came out in January. And that month actually had some entertaining movies. This one right here, yeah, it's just forgetful to be honest. Number 3. So every year there's always a movie on this list I ask myself, why did they even make it? And that is Spendable 4. From the awful acting, the terrible action scenes, and it felt like every actor in this film just sleepwalks through it, except for Jason Statham. Ironically enough, this is the second Jason Statham film, but I don't blame him. At least he, tried to give a good performance. But when you waste martial arts legends such as Tony Jaa and Iko Uwais, then you'll get one of the boring-ass action films of the year. Expendables 4 should have never been a thing because I can't see how this made a theatrical release and it should have went straight to streaming to be honest. Number 2. Alright, so at number 2 is a movie I wondered to why they even brought back this franchise. That is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. You want to talk about disappointing. Oh shit, was this film disappointing. Bringing Indiana Jones just to make a mockery of film, being this old broken down man. How this film ended on a atrocious note, and just bring in the actress, who I can't even remember right now her name. Bring in that character and saying, I'm burying you. Look at me, I'm flexing my muscles. She might as well have been saying that because I got that vibe of an asshole that she was because she was younger, she was up showing the older Indiana Jones. And the other 4 Indiana Jones movies, they're more entertaining than this one. Like, to me, the franchise died after the 4th film. This one, let's pretend it never happened, even though it did, because this film left me the most disappointed, but it wasn't the worst film I saw in 2023. Number 1. And the final entry on this list, it's a film I didn't even have to think about twice to put at number 1. That is Retribution. You want to talk about a film that gave me no hope, no desire, it's this one. The nonsensical story. The fact that how shitty this film ended up becoming. And how Liam Neeson just jumped on the film trying to ride that success from 2008's Taken. This movie was so boring that I really wanted to check it out after like the 10-minute mark. That's how awful it was. I don't know how this film ever came to be. It's like this movie should have went straight to DVD because how it got a theatrical release is beyond me, and that's why it's number 1 for the worst film of 2023. And well, there you have it. That is my top 10 worst movies of 2023. Now, I want to take a moment and appreciate everyone out there who watches my videos. Thank you once again for hanging out with me digitally. 2023 was such an interesting year of cinema. We had good movies, we had awful movies, we had movies in between. So I want you guys to go down below in the comment section And let me know what was your top 10 worst movies of this year. Doesn't even have to be a top 10. It could be more or it could be less. Alright, off to 2024. Well, I'm sure there's going to be some good films and some downright horrible films. Alright, this is Film Guy 172 saying peace out.